So we're almost halfway through the year, and for several months now, I've seen a lot of dissatisfaction with the current state of Jailbreak. Many have felt underwhelmed by the updates we've gotten this year. Is there actually a decline in quality, or is this year just as good as previous years? I decided now would be a good time to do a retrospective of the updates we've gotten so far, and review the current state of the game. Anyway, without further ado, let's start going through the updates. Kicking things off, we got a super small update in January. We got some changes to the mansion robbery. Police were now able to battle the CEO. Your invite wouldn't get removed if you die against the CEO. The devs added the meteor magnet prize as another reward from the CEO, and we got more of the darkest body colors. January updates usually aren't that big because they come not too long after the December updates, which usually are pretty big. Sometimes we don't even get updates in January. I had low expectations for the January update this year, so I wasn't surprised when we didn't get much. I'm still glad we got something though. I do have to say the additions of the other darkest paint colors did make season 13 a little bit worse, since that season had the darkest purple body color as a reward. It feels strange to me that one of the darkest body colors is locked behind the season while you can buy the others, but that's only a nitpick. Then February 2023 gave us two updates, though they were pretty small. The first update gave us season 14, which was themed around sports and racing, and it also changed the map back to spring. And that was pretty much it. I know a lot of people found this update very disappointing, in part because several people wanted a different car to win season 14, as well as the fact that this update just didn't have much in it, only giving us a season and a map change. However, the devs had told us that they were planning on releasing a substantial feature this update, but they had to delay it to keep working on it. Therefore, I wasn't as disappointed by this update, but I do wish we got a little extra something. With season updates in general, I really feel that a lot of them could get improved by having another vehicle added, since the season car is inaccessible for most players and takes at least 3 weeks to unlock. There's so many great vehicles submitted that I feel like there's enough ideas out there for extra vehicles. In my opinion, that would just make the updates a little bit better. But like I said, this was not the end of the February updates. To give the players a little extra content, the devs did another vehicle event with the Parisian EXP. Since this vehicle was so highly desired and many people were disappointed that it didn't win season 14, the devs chose to add it as a limited time vehicle only available for 2 days. I'm a really big fan of these limited time vehicle events, and I thought the Parisian was an excellent vehicle. For the most part, people liked this update, but strangely enough, I did see a couple people complaining about it, which was really weird to me. The devs didn't even originally intend to do this. They just decided to do it to spice up the month a little bit more, yet people still complained. Later on, I'm going to talk about my frustrations with a lot of the criticism I've seen for the game's updates throughout the year. But going back to February, it was the month when people were starting to get annoyed with how the year was going. It was not a strong start. A few of my friends were getting rather impatient. The devs were heavily hyping the next big feature which they had spent months working on, so there was a lot of anticipation and expectations for that feature. And that feature turned out to be crew battles. It's basically a mini game where you can battle other crews and earn points. This update also introduced the beta feature, where some features would be locked behind a code and weren't fully fleshed out. This feature allows the devs to take a look at player feedback and iron out whatever problems the upcoming feature might have, while also being able to test it on a smaller scale and not having to worry about being overwhelmed by the entire player base. However, this came at the cost of crew battles feeling really unpolished, and this was disappointing since we had to wait 3 months for them. When crew battles were first added, I had a lot of fun with them. However, I wouldn't say they were amazing. I couldn't help but feel a little bit underwhelmed after the 3-month wait. They're pretty well done, but it doesn't feel that much different from challenges you can do in the main game. After the month of March, I've pretty much stopped doing crew battles. Also, they are far less enjoyable to do now because there are so many hackers. There's also not much incentive to do them. The top players on the leaderboard will earn drifts, which I don't really care about. It's not worth the effort in my opinion. I think crew battles are an interesting concept, but I don't think they've been utilized to their full potential. I think one potential way to improve crew battles would be by bringing game modes back and integrating them with crew battles. This would introduce varied styles of gameplay, and since crew battles teleport players to different servers, there would be no worry of the game modes infringing upon the players who are playing the main game. I might make a video fleshing out this idea in the future. But as it stands, I think right now crew battles are pretty good, but they could be far better. This month also gave us another update in the form of a NASCAR collab. I've loved all of the collabs Jailbreak has done with racing companies, and this one was no exception. This collab was extra special to me me because I was able to live stream it for the first time. It was so much fun racing a lot of my subscribers and Discord members. By the way, join the Discord if you haven't already. I had a blast with this update. The NASCAR vehicle is great for new players, and it was a fun souvenir from the event. And we also got the semi-truck, which is an absolutely glorious vehicle for trolling. This update was super enjoyable in my opinion, and I love that they gave it to us. I should also mention we did not get an April Fool's update this year. A few of my friends were really let down by that. It's not unprecedented for us to get no updates during April Fool's, but we had gotten some in 2021 and 2022, so I was a bit sad to see that the streak did not continue this year. They're always a lot of fun. It's not a big deal, and I don't hold this against the devs at all, but it is something that I thought was worth mentioning. I do wish we got a little something. The devs were planning to revamp the apartments in the beginning of April with the season 15 update, but it got delayed to the end of the month. I do have to say it is a bit weird to me that this happened twice this year. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of the devs taking as much time as possible to fully flesh out features, and it sounds like these updates needed the delays. However, this did come at the cost of player satisfaction. Many people were not happy with the way 2023 was going, and this did not help matters by any means. Anyway, putting that aside, in the beginning of April, we got a rather small update. It gave us season 15, which was themed around Japan. It's a season which I really enjoyed. I think it has some great prizes, and I like the Shogun a lot. But I have to say, again, I really wish we got a permanent purchasable vehicle as well in this season. There were so many awesome cars submitted for the Japanese theme that I think it would have really fit to add a low or mid-tier Japanese vehicle for less fortunate players to purchase. This update also gave us unique drifts, which are an okay feature, not one that I like that much, but they do enhance cars a little bit. It also added streaming enabled, which makes distant buildings a lot more basic in an attempt to reduce lag. I didn't notice any substantial changes in terms of performance. From what I saw, I don't think it was that helpful, unfortunately, and it makes a lot of buildings look so much worse when you have higher graphics. However, for me in this case, it's the thought that counts, and I really do appreciate the devs at least trying to reduce lag. It's one of the biggest issues the game has. Then, like I mentioned earlier, we got the apartment revamp at the end of the month. For a while, the devs had talked about wanting to do another apartment update, and here we finally got it. I have to say, for the most part, I really enjoyed this update, and it was my favorite of the year when it came out. I think houses and apartments were significantly improved in terms of their looks and their customization ability. I'm so happy that the customization options were significantly increased and that we can change the actual walls and floor. However, it's not perfect, and I think the crew vaults still have issues. I'm glad they apply for all robberies now, and 5k seems like a reasonable limit. It's kind of like a mini robbery, but it's really inconvenient to get back to it. My biggest issue with the revamped vaults is that they still require 2 people to activate. This makes houses and apartments totally useless for people who play solo. I think they should still be able to get at least something from the vault. I'm glad you can buy apartments and houses permanently, but I do wish the more expensive ones had better perks. Perhaps they could give more from crew vaults, or they could have things like their own gun shops instead of just being limited to gun racks. I think they need a bit more to make them worth the extravagant price tag, because you're pretty much just paying for the looks. And I guess the spawn point too, though that's not as valuable since you can choose where to spawn. But besides those issues, I still think this was a very strong update. I know not everyone loved it, but it really worked for me, and I saw it as a nice return to form. And now we come to the most recent updates we've gotten this year: the prison revamp and season 16. I'll cover season 16 first since it has less to talk about. In terms of reception, this was one of the more mixed seasons, but I actually really like this one as well. I think so far the seasons this year have been pretty good. I've unlocked quite a few prizes so far, and I'm very happy with most of them. I love the looks of the Poseidon, and I'm hopeful that the stats are at least decent. Overall, season 16 seems to be pretty good, but the prison revamp was amazing. I honestly thought that the revamp the prison got in 2019 was perfect, and the prison didn't need any changes, but it somehow got even better. I really loved how they teased it by destroying the current prison. It built a lot of hype, and it reminded me of older updates when they did stuff like this, and in my opinion, the new prison lived up to the hype. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. In particular, I love the new color scheme that the cops section has. I love the look of the prison block. I did see a few complaints that there weren't that many new escapes added. I don't really care about that, to be honest. I was satisfied with the new escape methods they did introduce, and I loved the revamps they did to the pre-existing escapes, like the redesign of the punching escape, as well as the massive upgrade the sewer got. I gotta say, I definitely will miss the OG sewer since I started playing the game right around the time it was added, but the new one is vastly superior. I love it so much. This update also introduced the rolling mechanic, which I think is great and makes combat a lot more fun. Now there's more to do instead of just jumping and shooting at your opponent. In my opinion, this update was overall a huge win. However, I don't really like that it basically relocated the cop spawn to the prison, even though there's absolutely no incentive for cops to protect the prison. If they let criminals run rampant and rack up their bounties, they make more money. I really liked that the police HQ made the police a strong presence in the city again. The cop spawn being moved back to the prison isn't a huge deal since cops can choose where to spawn, but I'm still not very happy that they chose to do this. But besides that, I think this is definitely the best update of the year so far. So after going through the updates again, I don't think this year is bad at all. I think we got a couple really good updates with the prison revamp and the apartment revamp, and while crew battles are very flawed right now in my opinion, they do have a lot of potential. But we definitely did get a couple of mid updates, and I totally get why for so many people this year just hasn't been doing it for them. I would say so far this year is comparable to 2021 and 2022, where for the first several months the updates we got weren't that great. However, starting in around April or May, we started getting good updates. Only time will tell how the rest of the year turns out in terms of update quality. However, I am disappointed that even though the devs said this would be the year of refinement and improving Jailbreak, they're not really addressing the big issues which many people want to see fixed. They finally revamped apartments, though they do still have a couple problems. But unfortunately, a couple long-standing issues the game has had have been totally unaddressed so far. Several players are really sick of the current season and contract system. I know it does keep people coming back, but it's still not fun, and it just feels like a chore. There have been so many great ideas for possible season changes or revamps, and I'll link a few of them in the description if you want to read them. In fact, I even made a video talking about this. I know changing this system is not easy at all, and there's a lot of thought that needs to go into changing it, but still, that doesn't change the fact that the current system just does not work for many people. The cop team is also incredibly flawed, and from my understanding, there hasn't been any substantial effort to address this in years. There's no reason at all for cops to guard the prison. They're incentivized to let criminals run rampant and rob stuff, and because they don't have the equivalent of the duffel bag, cops make way less than criminals. Therefore, they're rarely found in servers, and they don't really pose a major threat. It seems really unfair to me that the cop team, which is supposed to be a huge part of Jailbreak, has been neglected for so long. I genuinely believe the team balance is probably the biggest issue in terms of gameplay that Jailbreak has. In terms of the updates this year, I think what we've gotten is pretty good. It's what we haven't gotten that I have an issue with. I know these are complicated problems with complicated solutions, but it's still frustrating to see from our perspective that not much, if anything, has been done to tackle these issues. I don't want to make it sound like they're doing nothing. However, from the perspective of the players, their inaction is annoying and makes older players a bit more disillusioned with the game. I really hope we see these things addressed sooner rather than later. And like I said, I'm sure these issues are very much on the devs' minds. Before wrapping up, I want to talk about what I want the community to do better. I think criticism is very valuable and it's necessary in order to improve in whatever you're trying to do. However, for it to be helpful, it needs to be constructive. And unfortunately, I have been seeing a lot of criticism of the game this year that is not helpful. So many people are way too vague with their criticisms. They just say stuff like the game is boring, the updates are getting worse, and they don't elaborate. Now, if you have those opinions, they may very well be valid. You could even be correct. But if you don't explain the reasoning behind your opinion, then it's worthless to the rest of us. There are several great people out there who continuously give detailed and constructive criticism, and to those people, I hope you guys keep doing what you're doing. I think as a community, we need to strive to be more constructive and less destructive. If you're unhappy with something in the game, try articulating what exactly it is that you're unhappy with, and possibly try raising some potential solutions. I think that will give the devs much more to work with when they're looking at criticism to determine what people want to see improved, and it helps other people understand where you're coming from. But yeah, those are just my 2 cents. Well, that's going to conclude my retrospective coverage of the 2023 updates thus far. Are you a fan of the current state of the game? Which of the updates that I covered here is your favorite? What would you like to see the devs do in the second half of 2023? Make sure to let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. Be sure to check out some of the critiques I've made of specific jailbreak features and their possible solutions. You can find a playlist to them up above or at the end of the video. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate if you like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night.